Good morning. Welcome to the first of our Insight Into videos. We've got Robert and Ryan here from Liberty Steel. They're going to give you some background about their journey through education to employment and talk all about their careers to date and how they got to where they are. So shall we start with you, Ryan? Would you like to tell us a little bit about your current role and the part of the business where you work?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ryan Stanso, mechanical engineer working for Liberty Specialty Steels at the Alderwood Cast Products site based at Rotherham, South Yorkshire. Alderwood Cast Products consists of three main departments: the raw materials, the steel making and the casting department. And the process, really, what we do here on site is we recycle the scrap steel, melt in the electric arc furnace, and then we cast it into a finished or semi-finished product. My role is mechanical engineer's role currently in the melting shop. I'd like to say there is a typical day, but there's no typical day in the current role. But mainly the structure of it would be reviewing the previous 24 hours performance, and from then obviously putting actions in place, solving any problems that have arisen for the last 24 hours, and then putting improvement plans in place to make the plant more reliable, safer and more efficient way of working.
Fabulous. And what about yourself, Robert?
So I work on the same site to Ryan. I look after the product development and technical project management. So when steel is made at Aldwick, where Ryan works, it is then cast, it's rolled at our rolling facility at Thriver, and then it is converted to different forms, so whether that is peeled, to taking the outer layer off the steel, or turning or drawing a bright bar on the same site. What technical project management is if a customer comes to us, or if an internal issue arises, we have to go through a process of either identifying how we make the steel that the customer wants, or how we try and fix what's gone wrong on the process from a technical metallurgical standpoint. So I make sure that all the communication and all of the technical understanding is there to allow for us to improve as a business, for our products to get better, and for the customers who we sell the steel to make sure that they're kept happy.
Fab. So it sounds like you've both got really sort of varied and interesting roles there. How did you get into this line of work? Did you do further study from school, or did you join the company straight from school? Robert, if we start with you, perhaps.
So I went to university. So I didn't grow up in Sheffield. You can probably tell by my accent. I went to school in Lincolnshire. I did my A-levels. I did chemistry, physics, maths, and for what was AS, which now don't exist, I did biology. I then left school. I did okay at my A-levels, but Sheffield University took me on. I did a degree in metallurgy, understanding everything from how steel is made to what goes into plastics. And then I thought, you know what, I'm in Sheffield. I found my home. Sheffield's a lovely place, and for someone who studied metal and studied steel, the Steel City is the best place to be. I then applied for a graduate job here at Liberty, and they said yes, and I haven't left. I've been with the company 2 years. I did the graduate scheme for about a year and a half, and then moved into my substantial role doing what I do now.
Amazing. And what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so I stopped on at school. I attempted to carry on doing sixth form, and I had a choice whether to carry on doing sixth form or go to college. The reason for choosing to stop on at sixth form was the perception of being successful. People thought the route would be to get degrees, so the route to get degrees via sixth form, doing the A-levels and progressing that way. But I just didn't like it. Continued to get treated as a child. So my friends and other people as well leaving school, getting jobs. But I didn't just want to leave for a dead-end job. I wanted something where there was a bit of progression. Therefore, I carried on at sixth form. I cancelled my sixth form progression really within 3 to 6 months of being there, and started then in the summer for an apprenticeship. I didn't want the apprenticeship to be just like a backstreet company, so I applied for the local council and chorus at the time. And basically, due to me enjoying the hands-on experience and the tinkering with bikes and cars as a youngster, that drew me down the route of going into engineering. So fortunately for myself, I applied for chorus in the summer and then started with chorus in 2008 as an engineering apprentice. But at the time, back in 2008, there were very little schemes available for the youngsters, but it is becoming more and more to the point where the majority of the people now who are leaving school are looking for apprenticeship because they want to earn the money as well. So that's how I ended up doing an engineering apprenticeship.
Great. And out of all of your schooling and further studies and apprenticeships, what do you think are the key skills that you need to be successful in your current role?
Right, so in the current role, really, you need to be really methodical, a good problem solver, and resilient as well. So never giving up, always wanting to progress and get better things. But then, as an engineer, you are required to problem solve, and solving problems requires a methodical way of thinking to basically eliminate and fault find, and then put improvement things in place. As well as being methodical, I mean good planning skills as well, so a good communicator, and keeping people informed about what you're doing and getting buy-in from everybody.
I totally agree, Ryan. I think everything that you've said, I'd say that I need in my everyday role. I think the only two things that I would add to that is communication. So if you can talk to people, if you can make sure that they understand where you're coming from, that is one of the things as a project manager, and every other person I work with needs this, is how to communicate with people. And communication isn't just how you talk to them, it's how you persuade them. So a lot of my role is making sure that people who have different ideas to me, so how do I understand their ideas, how do I get them to understand my ideas, and how do we try and meet in the middle so everyone's happy. But I think one of the key skills that I've found is, how do you have fun with what you do? I'll come on to this a little bit later, but having fun at work, having a drive to do stuff, getting up in the morning and saying, actually, I'm really excited about what I want to do, rather than just going into work and kind of ploughing on when you're not happy. That's one of the key skills, is carving out that niche and finding enjoyment in it.
I completely agree. I think that's lovely. I guess while we're focusing on your current roles at the minute, and I know that there's no such thing as a typical day and no 2 days are the same, but could you maybe give us an example of what a day could look like? So from when you arrive on site in the morning to when you leave in the evening, what could an example day look like?
Shall I let you take that one, Ryan, first?
Yeah, so some days I could turn up to work and obviously we may not be producing steel at all or not casting steel at all. So we come on, it can be quite hectic, quite really busy, and the main focus is then is getting the plant up and running. It doesn't always happen like that. Obviously, if you're doing your job to the best of your ability, the majority of the time the furnaces are operating, the casting machine is casting. So they are. So I have got to reiterate it. There is no typical day, but majority of the time we do turn up to work, and basically reviewing the performance for the previous 24 hours is critical to make sure we're not going to hit any issues going forward. But more importantly, actually putting things in place to prevent issues happening again. A lot of focus is spent on that. We do a lot of morning meetings initially in the morning to gather what's happened because it's a 24/7 operation. We have got the back shifts that we're not always here for, so we have a lot of meetings in the morning to review that data. And so from then, obviously, we have the meetings, but then we also have close communication with our craft people. So going out and seeing your teams working, seeing what they're on with for the day as well, making sure if they need any support or any spares or anything like that, then we're always there to discuss that with them as well.
Cool. Robert?
Yeah, so I'd reiterate, there's no standard day. I'll sometimes come in first in the morning to no new emails, at which point I'm a happy bunny. but then sometimes I'll have 10 or 15 emails going, something's gone wrong, please fix this, have you got details on this, what's happening with this bit of material. So I have to try and answer any urgent emails that I have. Some days, most of the time, I've got a list of research I've got to do, list of reading. So one thing that I have to try and do at work is understand what's going wrong. Is there any research papers, any academic understanding of what's happening to our steel? That will often be a kind of a mid-morning task when my brain's not quite active enough to do the complicated stuff, is reading through, making notes, trying to understand what's happening to the steel that is making problems somewhere in the production process. Often find myself getting phone calls, getting emails going, Rob, something that you're looking after is going through the mill. We want you to come and watch it, or you've asked to come and watch it. This is happening then. At which point I have to get all my kit on. So I don't usually work in kind of pro bands in dirty kit, but when I do, I get them on, go out to the mill. I watch material being rolled. I have a chat with the guys in the cabin, ask what they're seeing, how the material that we're rolling is doing. So whilst I work 80% of my time in the office, 20% of my time is spent out on the mill or out in the melting shop, trying to understand what's happening, trying to work out how we can do stuff better. So that's usually my day: answering emails, communicating with people, being in meetings. But the thing that I really find fun is going out onto the mill, getting to know what we're doing, and trying to improve so Liberty can sell more and better steel.
Yeah, I bet. Sounds really interesting. Sounds like, oh, sorry.
No, what I was just going to add were to make it a bit more relatable to younger people and the apprentices. Obviously, me and Rob are in different roles from when we first started, but coming through the apprenticeship route as an apprentice and then turning to improve a craft and a substantive craftsman at the time, you used to turn up. You were the people on the front line doing the work, the hands-on experience, which is what the younger people really. Well, first of all, that was their first experience on an apprenticeship, getting down and dirty and getting actually into the nitty-gritty bits of the work in the machines, and really that's what really like drive me towards wanting an apprenticeship. Is that's really where the young engineers really ought to be, and that's where they want to learn the trade. Really, it's out there on the shop floor, which is a different day role back then. It's different to the day role that I do now. So yeah, it's quite interesting and varied.
Do you ever miss the days back then, being on the front line, as it were?
Yeah, I would say I do sometimes miss it. And to be fair, as I've progressed, I've always been willing to actually get back out on the shop floor if needs be, and mucking with the lads when they need help. So I'm not shy of it, and I think that does leave in good stead to be a leader in this business as well. Is to show that you can revert back and relate yourself back to being on the shop floor, and you do gain that bit more respect from coming from an engineering apprenticeship role to being a supervisor, to being a manager and an engineer. So yeah, it does lead you in good stead to progress with the business when you've had that hands-on experience yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, thank you. I guess sounds like your jobs are crazy busy and you do loads of different things, but what do you think is the hardest or most challenging part of your role?
So I think it ties quite nicely into what Ryan was just saying there. Like, I've joined the business 2 years ago, and I'm one of the people that sits in the office. I wear kind of nice stuff. I wear a shirt. I wear shoes because that's what is expected of you in the office. And I think the most challenging and hardest thing when I first joined, and now it's become the most rewarding, is when I email someone going, "Oh, can you do this for me?" Or I go down into the rolling mill and ask someone in the cabin to do something. They look at me and go, "What? Who are you telling me what to do?" Because a lot of these guys are significantly older than me, and they've been around these parts longer than I have. Like that is that was possibly the most challenging thing coming into this. But if you've got a good level of communication skills, and if you can relate to them, and if you know how to interact with them, it's the most rewarding thing walking into a cabin. Now, once you know the guys down there, asking them to do something, you can have a proper chat with them. And they really feel like they want to help you. So kind of building those relationships, getting them to understand why you're coming in to ask them to do something which they've been doing, ask them to do something different, which they've been doing for the last 15 years. That's the hardest thing. But when you get over that hurdle, it's immensely rewarding.
Yeah, I bet. Ryan?
Yeah, one of the most challenging things is either accepting how long it think for things to take to make a change, or should I say, it's not accepting the fact how long it takes for things to change. That can be quite frustrating. I know a lot of different departments and people have got other priorities, but it can be frustrating sometimes when you're trying to implement a change, how long things do take, which is quite a big frustration from an engineering perspective. But it's for the right reasons majority of the time. But as an engineer, we don't like non-value adding stuff, and we don't like inefficiencies in systems and processes. So that's one of the role I'm in now is quite a frustrating thing. But more related back to the business as a whole, though, seeing the actual one thing that is frustrating is seeing the gap from the experienced craftsmen to the apprentices getting larger. So encouraging the younger generation to extract the knowledge from the more experienced craftsmen. We need more people in there to basically gain that knowledge from the wealth of experience that these experienced engineers and technicians have got. And we want more people, we need to recruit more youngsters, and that can be quite frustrating because you always want more really to extract that knowledge. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what if we flip that on its head and say, what do you like most about your current role?
Ryan, do you want to take that one? Because I'm going to have to.
I'll go first. Yeah, so the most enjoying thing is the challenge it provides you on a daily basis. So no 2 days are the same, which is great. The experience you get within the steelworks is second to none. Actually, being able to be in a fortunate position to interview different people from outside the business, then compare them to the apprenticeship scheme that you've took, then compared to someone else who's come from an apprenticeship route. The exposure and the experience you get as an engineering apprentice within this business is brilliant. So it's always good to see that the scheme that you're providing, the training you're providing is working. So that's a good part to it. But being able to make a difference and have the autonomy to put a change in place and see it through to actually working successful, that's a really rewarding task as well. In seeing whatever you're implementing make a change and then actually seeing it work is really rewarding. But I would say one of the biggest things is working within the close-knit team that we're working, and having that conversation with the guys on the shop floor and also with your colleagues. It's quite a good atmosphere to be working in. So there's no day that I wake up to work dreading to come to work. I enjoy it. And it's something that I would always recommend to the youngsters as well, is do something you enjoy, and obviously from then on, then it should just reap the rewards.
Lovely, thank you. And Robert?
Yeah, it's going to be me saying, yeah, I agree with Ryan a lot on this. No, it's the problem solving. It's if a customer comes to us or a member of the technical team on either the caster or the rolling mill, if they come to us and say we've got this problem, if I've worked through the problem, if I've identified what can be changed, what can be improved, what's gone wrong, and we fix that, and then one of the customer account holders or one of the salespeople come to us and say, Rob, that problem that you fixed, that really impressed the customer, and because of that, they're ordering 200 more tons of material. That kind of gives me a real lift and kind of makes me think, actually, I'm making a difference here. I'm making the business better. I'm solving problems, and that it's a little boost that I get, which is possibly one of the most enjoyable things about my job, knowing that, as I said, that something I've done has made a difference to how the business performs. And then the rewarding thing about it, so steel is Rotherham is the steel that we make here goes into everything, and I quite enjoy the fact that everything from cars to planes to washing machines to buildings will have steel made in Rotherham. So maybe not at the moment because no one can travel anywhere, but steel on aircraft is on the landing gear is made in Rotherham. Every 3 seconds, landing gear. A plane lands on landing gear made in Rotherham, and I can see, well, I might have solved a problem that has allowed us to make that, has allowed us to do better at that. And when everyone gets to go back and fly away on holidays or go on business trips, being able to look up in the sky or jump on a plane and go, something I've helped make, something that I've helped develop is on this aircraft. It's a really rewarding feeling, and it just makes you think, actually, I'm doing something good here.
Wow, certainly sounds like it. Thank you. That was really lovely. Thank you, both of you. I think just before we finish, something that I would like to ask slightly different is, obviously, with all of your wealth of experience, everything that you've learned throughout education and throughout your sort of employment to date, what advice would you give to students that are still in school, whether or not they're thinking about going into the steel industry, whether or not they're thinking about going into engineering or a different STEM subject? If you could almost speak to yourself at that age, what advice do you think that you would offer, knowing what you do now?
Right. The main thing for me would be the saying is, you want to get out of it what you put into it. So putting the effort in and having a good attitude towards everything you do, then you'll reap the rewards for it. So you want to get out of it what you put into it. So nothing's given, nothing's on a plate, but the more effort and the good attitude you show, then you'd hopefully reap the.
That's great. Thank you.
I think I'd add to that and say, find something you enjoy. Your teachers, your family members might have an idea about what you're good at, but for me, what I found out quite going from school, going into university, and during university, is what I'm good at isn't always what I enjoy. And if you're good at something but you don't enjoy it, you're not going to perform at it. You're not going to do well. But if you really enjoy something, you're going to put that effort in. You're going to really kind of knuckle down and make sure that you do the best you can, and don't give up at that. If you think you enjoy something, then you try it and you don't enjoy it, accept that it isn't right for you. Take a little bit of time, accept that sometimes you're going to get knocked back, you're going to have to restart. And if you find something you enjoy, you'll be waking up each morning going, I really want to get into work, I really want to improve, I really want to do the best I can. Because if you don't enjoy it, you don't have that drive, and if you don't have that drive, you don't improve. So find something you enjoy and do it.
Lovely. Well, that was fantastic. Really interesting. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.